This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We turn now to Burma, where there is growing outrage after the military junta executed 4 men Saturday who'd been jailed for opposing last year's military coup. In Burma's largest city, Rangoon, protesters marched down the streets with a banner reading, "We will never be frightened," and called out the names of the executed activists. The execution of the 4 pro-democracy activists who were sentenced to death in secretive trials marks the first executions in Burma in over 30 years. Chaw Min-yu was the prominent pro-democracy activist, also known as Ko Jimmy. He was a student leader in 1988 uprising, spent many years as a political prisoner. Also executed was Phu Zayataw, a former rapper who was a founding member of Generation Wave, an anti-military youth-led movement, and became a lawmaker in Aung San Suu Kyi's party, the National League for Democracy. The 2 other men executed Saturday were Hla Myo-aung and Aung Thur Za. The Assistance Association of Political Prisoners says they were involved in the resistance protest movement since the 2021 coup, like many other Burmese. On Monday, the U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price responded to the executions.
We underscore that with the escalating violence, with these horrific atrocities that the junta has carried out, there can be no business as usual with this regime. We urge all countries to ban the sale of military equipment to Burma, to refrain from lending the regime any degree of international credibility, and we call on ASEAN to maintain its important precedent, only allowing Burmese non-political representation at regional events.
For more, we go to London to speak with Maung Zarni, exiled Burmese scholar, dissident, and human rights activist, co-founder of the Forces of Renewal for Southeast Asia, or 4C. Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Zarni. Our condolences to you and so many who knew one or more of the 4 people executed Saturday. Can you tell us who they were? And were you shocked by this act of the first execution of political prisoners in, some 30 years in Burma?
Thank you, Amy. You know, the 2 of the executed, I met them and I consider them my younger comrades. You know, the Jimmy or Chaw Min-yu had been involved since 1988 when he was only 19 years old. And Zayataw is in his mid-40s and a well-known hip-hop artist and a committed supporter of Aung San Suu Kyi's leadership and NLD. We had differences of opinion about her leadership or NLD, but nonetheless, you know, I felt the pain. Also, the other 2 were younger generation comrade brothers. They were accused of, you know, killing someone who was credibly accused of being a informer for the military. So these are, you know, the 4 dissidents that were barbarically executed on Saturday. The families have not been, you know, given any indication in what manners they were executed, or, you know, not their, if they were cremated, not the ashes, right? So the military is very afraid of these 4 becoming martyrs for the resistance and inspire new wave of, you know, resistors. Was I shocked? No, not at all. You know, I think, like, of course, like these 4, you know, young or not so young dissidents were executed, and so they had, you know, personal stories that we knew. So it piqued the interest of the media and others. So we are looking at essentially the genocidal regime that is credibly accused of and that is facing a genocide case at the International Court of Justice. And so just last Friday, as you know, the ICJ, the United Nations principal judicial organ, has ruled that, the genocide case filed by Gambia against the state of Myanmar will proceed. And so this is a regime that has committed every single grave crime in international law that has ever been established and encoded in the law books. And so, I think we should realize that, when the international community continues with the business as usual policy, including the United States, United Kingdom, UK, Canada, the maintaining high level diplomatic ties, allowing, oil and other natural resource extractive industries to continue to be in partnership with the regime. The regime is emboldened. So I would hold the international community, accountable for its culpability, despite all these empty condemnations from Ned Price or, the congressional leaders and UN, officials, human rights commissions, the European Union and whatnot.
Well, Maung Zarni, could you be more specific in terms of the contradiction between the words that are espoused by the U.S. government and other Western leaders and what their actual practice has been? Could you give us some specifics on that in terms of what companies and industries are still benefiting from economic ties and political ties with the Burmese junta?
Yes, all these high street, fashion brands, Zara and others, and textile apparel industries, they are still producing and sourcing their materials in Burma, in a country that have zero or no labor rights protections, labor laws in place or enforced. The chevron of the United States was grandfathered in when Unicol was swallowed up by California-based Chevron. It's in partnership with the Burmese military, control the Myanmar gas and oil, and there are a long list of European, Japan, Australian, the Americans, and even Canadian corporate interests operating on the ground, while the politicians and the foreign affairs or State Department officials come up with these grandiose condemnations, grandstanding that they are doing something moral, ethical, and principle. If you compare the United States, response to Vladimir Putin's illegal and immoral invasion of Ukraine, and the Biden's response to the Burmese regime's violations of all norms internationally and all the criminal and humanitarian law, you will see a black and white difference. The Biden has frozen $1 billion held in the U.S. accounts that belong to the people of Myanmar, the state of Myanmar. The military is widely, domestically unaccepted and considered illegitimate, and even the Association of Southeast Asian Nations refuses to seat any political representative, let alone the chief of staff, Min Aung Hlaing, the head of the regime. And so Biden poured nearly $50 billion to defend Ukraine and support Ukrainian resistance. The Burmese resistance movement is selling, engage in bake sales and the concerts abroad to raise peanuts, several $1 million or $50,000 to support their own resistance back home. Biden should be unfreezing their $1 billion and making it available to support the Burmese resistance.
We want to thank you very much, Maung Zarni, for being with us, Burmese scholar, dissident, human rights activist, co-founder of the Forces of Renewal for Southeast Asia, FORSI, a grassroots network of pro-democracy scholars and human rights activists across Southeast Asia. Next up, we're going to look at the Puerto Rico Status Act, a House bill that would allow residents of Puerto Rico to decide on the island's territorial status. We'll speak with the former mayor of San Juan. But as we go to break, this is Satin Chin, which means beginning. It was the title track to an album by the Burmese hip-hop group Acid, co-founded by the artist and pro-democracy activist turned legislator Piuzea Taw, who was executed Saturday by Burma's military junta along with 3 others, prompting international outrage.